Hello, welcome back to the Up and Adam Show on a Monday. We have NFL analyst for ESPN, great friend of the show, Ben. You've been big time in us all season, as you should. Congrats on everything. What a crazy week 8.
Yeah, it was a lot of underdogs winning in the early slate, and then the middle slate was kind of okay, whatever, some lame finishes, nothing going on. And then Sunday Night Football, I was tucked in. I was ready to go to bed. I was like, we're done, early night, and then I had to stay up watching into that one.
And that's what our life is so hard, having to watch all these football games.
The job is just, it's so tough. I have to watch football games for money. It sucks.
We have to. It's a great way to put it. Got to give love, to Gerard Mayo and Jacoby Brissett. Gritty. We need to give him love somewhere in the show, and this is happening right now. They not only get a win after nobody has any faith in them, but they might have just put the nail in the coffin for these Jets with 5 straight losses. Now, a lot of people believe Davante Adams was going to come in and solve the problem. You are not one of them.
Yeah, there's no quick fixes in the NFL. Never has been, never will be. It's a team sport, right? We love to say, the quarterback this and the excellent play of Aaron Rodgers will save everybody. But in the league, there's only 17 games. It is such an intense and physical sport. Anybody can be anybody any given week. That when you, as the Jets have tried to do this season, when you convince yourselves, okay, if we just make a head coaching change, and we make a play caller change, it'll solve everything for us. If we just get Davante Adams into the building, it'll solve everything for us. You can't win more than 1 game a week, right? You can't. There's nothing that just you got to build these things slowly. If you listen to the smart coaches, what do they always talk about? We got to go 1-0 this week. We're just building on our weeks every single Sunday. So the Jets tried. The Jets tried to turn their season around straight 180 in 1 week, and then they tried to do it again. And then Davante Adams gave us this big speech. We're going to do it again. It's never that easy. You have to be able to build teams slowly through the trenches, through the draft, over time. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. You have to build this thing gradually, and the Jets try to quick fix it. Never works.
Church of Ben Solak right here. I'm loving this.
Never works.
The Jets, listen, this is a crazy stat. They scored 20-plus points, no turnovers, held the Patriots to under 250 yards from 1940, like World War II. From 1940 to yesterday, teams are 756-0 when they hit those metrics. Make this make sense. Are the Jets cooked?
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep getting up off the mat when you've done it 3 weeks in a row and be like, all right, now we turn this thing around. You start to lose belief. You start to lose that kind of internal fortitude you need to win that many games in a row to turn this thing around. They had the Patriots in, all right, the Patriots need a 70-yard, 2-minute drill drive with their backup quarterback in. Defensively, you should be able to win that game every single time, and that's how you've built this Jets team. Since Robert Saleh was fired, the Jets defense not as good. And they've had secondary injuries, and they got DJ Reed back for this game. And so, there's been some personnel problems. But in general, they just have not had the same stuff on late downs. They haven't had the same competitiveness. And they got the ball pushed down the field of them by a Patriots offense that does not do that to anybody. And so there's a reason why teams are 750-0 coming into that week. It's because once you have the Patriots in that late game situation, you should win that late game situation. And the fact that they didn't do so, it's a black mark on that defense.
Hanging out with Ben Solak of ESPN. He's on fire on a Monday morning. You got a big one tonight between the Giants and the Steelers. But let's talk about the Cowboys. You said you were tucked in, you were ready to drink your glass of milk and go to sleep. And then they dropped to 3-4, those Cowboys. They lose to the Niners. People sort of pointing the finger at Dak, as always. Throwing 2 more interceptions in this one. That's 10 on the season. Is there a fix here? Is there a simple fix? We got the trade deadline. We got, how do you fix the Cowboys?
No, this is another example where you got to go slow, right?
Okay.
If we think about those McCarthy-era Cowboys early on, because we have to remember, 2021, 2022, 2023, the Cowboys were winning 12 games every regular season, right? They're one of the most winning teams that we had in the league. And it was because they had good star talent, Dak, CeeDee, Michael Parsons, and then they had good depth. And just over time, you lose depth. There's always an attrition of depth in the NFL. You can't pay everybody. Guys get older. Guys get banged up. Their inability to reload the coffers, right, to bring in younger players means that the absences of not just DeMarcus Lawrence, but Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler, who leave with Dan Quinn. The absence of Deron Bland, who's been there at corner 2. Well, they have no corner 3 who's there ready to step in for him, right? At wide receiver, where, okay, Michael Gallup's gone, Amari Cooper got traded away, and Jalen Tolbert's not ready, and Kevontae Turpin's not ready. Just there's an attrition that happens in the bottom of a roster, and then it trickles its way up. And that's where you're at now in Dallas, where it's, okay, if Dak, CeeDee, and Michael Parsons aren't winning the game for us, who is? Because now we have to throw the ball to Jalen Tolbert 8 times. Now we have to ask Amani Oruwariye to win in coverage. And just that's not a winning formula against the top teams.
I think if you were to ask me, out of the 32, who can you not bring the word slow with? The team that doesn't have slow as an option, it's Dallas. Because of
Which is very annoying because
But you're putting it all
your
on
owner
Jerry.
is your GM, then your GM should know he's not getting fired. So then your GM should want to go slowly, methodically, and patiently.
Yeah.
So it's the one team where you should be able to say, we're going to build through the draft. We're going to be careful with future resources. We're going to build this thing the right way. Yet for some reason, it's the opposite case in Dallas. And that's very frustrating.
Are they winning 6 games this year?
I think so, because they just have enough good players. I think Parsons comes back, Bland coming back. Like everybody talks a lot about the Parsons injury. Bland being absent the whole start of the season has been really tough for them, because they just everybody can avoid Trayvon Diggs if they want to, and they can go attack Diggs with like double moves and the stuff that he's always been weak on. And so they're going to get healthier. They have enough star talent to win enough games. Like I think they're going to be around. They need to stop playing primetime games, because Dak is just so much worse. He's getting primetime Kirk issues at this point with how bad he is in these,
Aaron Judge,
in these island spots. Yeah. So I think they stay in the race because they have the requisite talent, but this is not a serious postseason team. No,
it's not a serious postseason. You know, the Bland thing, funny or not, like Kevin Durant is all over it. He's just, I mean, he's a huge Commanders fan.
Yeah?
But whenever
Katie's watching film, all right?
I'm not
Katie's
kidding.
grinding.
Whenever I talk
he's
to him, he's like, well, whenever it comes to the Cowboys and making a pick or doing something, he's like, well, Deron Bland. He always comes back to Deron Bland. It's like the only time he's mentioned on my show. So he's
Katie
as smart as you are.
That's why.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, the thing that you're saying though, it's interesting is like, are you saying basically was it a mistake to pay CD and Dak?
No, you have
how
good
do you
players.
have resources then to fix these issues? Like it's.
Let's want to pull up Cowboys draft history last 4 years and talk through some of these middle round picks, right? That's the nature of it. If you want to figure out which teams are good in 2024, go look at NFL drafts from 2020 and 2021 and 2022, and just see what teams were able to find your starters in your rounds 3, rounds 4, and rounds 5. And remember, when Dallas was enjoying that regular season success, it was with Michael Gallup as a 3rd-round pick and Deron Bland as a 5th-round pick, and I think Dorrance Armstrong was a 4th-round pick, and Osa Odigizua was a 4th-round pick. When they had that success, it was in large part because those young cheap players were still on their young cheap deals, and they were filling in the gaps outside of the stars, right? That second level of roster management. So you go and you look at your perennial contenders, your Chiefs and your 49ers. Just go look at the draft history. Look at how many of these 4th-rounders, 5th-rounders, 6th-rounders continue to be good for those teams. And that's because when you have a good head coach GM pairing, they know what to give one another. They know how to build the teams. All right, Kyle Shanahan likes these sorts of cornerbacks. These sorts of running backs. Steve Spagnuolo likes these sorts of cornerbacks. It makes sense, right? There's a harmony. There's a on the same pageness. That's very helpful. That is not the case in Dallas, despite, again, the fact that it should be, because they should have better organizational stability.
Who's killing it right now in Ben's eyes? Whether it's from or who's like your biggest, most impressive, your pleasant surprise through 8 weeks?
Talking team, talking player,
just anybody.
Either.
I mean, because you're just so honest. I love talking to you about anything.
I thought the Commanders' defense was going to be really rough, and they have done. We talked about Dallas having the stars and then having the scrubs. The Commanders defensively, they have some weak points, but their stars have done enough for them that they can win some downs, get some splash plays, and get off the field at all 3 levels. The first level is rookie Jason Newton, the defensive tackle out of Illinois, who has stepped in with John Allen out and just been delightfully disruptive through a couple of weeks. And so Newton looks great. He was a little bit underdrafted because he has a foot issue, but as long as he's been healthy, he's been that first round sort of a guy. Second level, Frankie Louvu, who they brought in from Carolina. Every film watcher in the world loves Frankie Louvu. He just does everything well. Incredible tackler, high effort, hustler, pass rusher coverage. He's just a delight. And then rookie corner Mikey Sainristil out of Michigan, the 2nd-round pick for him. They thought he was going to play the nickel, as what his body type is more for, but their corner room was so weak, they started throwing him on the outside. He's been excellent. He's surviving out there as a short king. And so those 3 players, I think right now, saving a lot of what the Commanders need on defense.
Newton had 3 quarterback hits yesterday. This is a top 10 defense, which we love
He
as
wins
far as
fast.
scoring
He wins
deep.
early in the downs of penetration. He's a good player.
Kuechly just told me that he thinks they're going to win the division. What say you?
I would like to see them play the Eagles, and I would like to see how that game goes.
Enter Eagles fan. Go for it.
Yeah. The Commanders, man, every game, the offense either has the easiest time in the world or the hardest time in the world. It's kind of and that's a tricky thing. It's a very fragile is an incorrect word, but it's very polar, this offense. Like if you stop them on 1st and 10, then they end up in like a Jaden Daniels 3rd and 9, just throwing a one-on-one to Terry McLaurin thing. And that can be very up and down. And so I don't fully yet trust this offense. The Eagles offense can be very polar, right? We've had them have some big spike weeks and some big bad weeks. And so both of these teams I have my suspicions about. I think that the series, the head-to-head, the 2 games that they play are going to be the deciding factor there. And so I'm more 50-50 on it. I'm not sure yet who I like between the 2 teams.
Do you want to talk about the Lions as your last thing? What do you want to talk about?
That game was like a fever dream. At one point, the Lions had 4 touchdown drives, and all of them had 3 or fewer plays. That's not how football. You can't do. That's not. And 3 of them were of 25 or fewer yards. They ended the day with 5 touchdown drives, 35 points on drives that started inside the Titans' 30. It's never been done before. They had more short fields than anybody in history. It was an amazing game for like the absolute worst reasons. They were doing bits by the end, right? They got both of their tight ends to score touchdowns. They had David Montgomery throwing to Sam Laporta. It was all cheese. They had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
They're the first team ever with 5 touchdown drives of 30 or fewer yards in a single game. A truly unique viewing experience.
And you kept on thinking to yourself, like, all right, the Titans are just going to run the ball, and this is going to calm down. And then the very next drive would be like either a fumble or they would kick it to Khalif Raymond, who at one point was averaging 54.7 yards per return because he had a 64-yarder that didn't score and a 90-yarder that did score. It was an awful, awful day for the Titans. It was so bad.
But the Lions basically didn't play in the fourth quarter. Just like good times. Good times had by all. Very unique experience in Week 8. Who you got tonight? What's the one thing you're looking for before we let you go?
Yeah, I think that we saw the high tail of a Russell Wilson game for the Steelers last week, where it was, we're going to launch some deep balls and we're going to do a little play action. Like, they just connected on so many of them that the offense looked good. I'm curious to see if we get more of a low tail game. This Giants defense is tricky because they do a lot of good stuff schematically, and their corners are tight to the coverage and they play fast, and then they just always lose at the catch point. Like, they feel on film like they should be better than they've been on the numbers. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another game where it's sticky and it's 10-6 and it's gross and nobody likes it, and then there's 168 yards George Pickens catch and it blows this thing wide open, and the Steelers win it. Yeah, that's something we get tonight.
Take plenty of shots downfield. Ben, you are so whip smart. It is hard to keep up with, and I need so much coffee, and we're so appreciative. That game, of course, on ESPN. You in that family, you can check out everything that Ben Solak does over on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and all over the network, breaking it down. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Kay.
Thank you. You're the best. Oh my gosh, I just learned so much. It's insane.